Good evening and welcome to episode 81 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. What a fantastic, exciting show and guest we have. Before we get started, please make sure you hit that subscribe button right there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We're getting close to 500 subscribers. I really need your help. Please make sure you subscribe. After you do that, hit that notification bell so you know when new content will arise. Also, smash that thumbs up or like button so we can increase our viewership. As you know, you can reach me on Twitter. You can see on my name tag at H Kravitz. I believe I'm an excellent follow. And also, you can find me through email, hkravitzhorse at gmail.com. It is on the scroll on the bottom of your screen. A few quick items before I bring on my guest. Now is a great time to sign up for my Race Day blog. If you've not signed up for the Race Day blog, it regenerates itself at the beginning of the month. And we are right at the beginning of the month with exciting Breeders' Cup prep races coming up. And then, of course, the Breeders' Cup in 2 months. It's very inexpensive. It's very profitable. You receive my blog every Saturday. All you need to do is go to that Patreon website you can see on the bottom of the screen. There's also detailed information about signing up for the Race Day blog below the video player in the description. So please make sure you check that out. Also, as most of you know, I'm the blog writer for In the Money Media. I cover Canterbury Park. They only have 2 more weeks left in their meet, but they have some huge race days coming up and also a big contest as well in 2 weeks. So follow me on inthemoneypodcast.com with my free selections and analysis at inthemoneypodcast.com for Canterbury Park. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight, and this is one of my favorite announcers. I'm a huge fan. Let me give you the quick intro. This gentleman has been a racetrack announcer for a long time. Started Garden State. He's been at Gulfstream, Hialeah, Hawthorne. You probably know him best, perhaps, for his years also at Hollywood Park. And now he is the voice of Oaklawn Park. He's worn many hats. I'm a huge fan. We are very happy and pleased to have on the show with us tonight, Mr. Vic Stauffer. Vic, how you doing tonight, sir?
Howard, my wife checks my emails, and she told me that I was going to be doing a spot on Howard's show. And imagine my shock when I saw you and your hair wasn't down to your shoulders.
I
But
gotcha.
but
Well, listen.
it sounds good because I doubt if Stern knows anything about horse racing, and we certainly do. So thanks for having me on, and it's my pleasure. I'm a fan of the show. I went back. To be honest with you, I hadn't heard about it, but when you called or when you texted me and said, "Would you be interested in coming on?" I went and watched last week's show and immediately became a big fan. So you got me.
Wow. Well, listen, Vic, thank you very much. Like I told you before, we started in January, and I have almost 30,000 views now, about 500 subscribers. It's definitely growing. I really appreciate the nice words and the support. Please tell all your racing friends. I really believe we put on a good product here of
You don't want to
variety
talk.
of variety
I
of
don't have
human
that many
interest.
racing friends.
Okay, well, any friends you might have, but that's
Well,
okay.
I know lots of people. Friends? Well, that's a totally different
How about
story.
the guy down the street that likes the handicap? How about that
There
guy?
you go.
All
There you
right.
go.
So just so you folks know at home, because we have a lot of people that are watching right now, and Vic, you'll see on the bottom of the screen also the questions I'll be asking, and also we like to bring in as many comments as possible. Like from Monty, Vic, Monty is here. He loves Hollywood Park. Thanks, Monty, for joining the show. So you'll see that quite a bit also tonight as well, Vic, because I like to try to bring on as many people as possible that are watching the show. But I've been a big fan. I want everyone to know 2 things. First of all, there's no mistake on the screen. Most of you know that I have my guests. You can see them, but this has been planned. So we have a wonderful picture of Vic from announcing there from Oaklawn. So there's no issues whatsoever with the screen, just to let you know. In
Howard,
terms of,
should I show them why you're going to be looking at my picture?
that's up to you, sir. If you like. Okay.
That's what.
All right.
That's the best I can do, baby. And I just had ear surgery, so I look like half of a mad elephant. Because they
Okay,
say
well,
when elephants get pissed off, they put their ears forward. Well, one of mine is way forward, and one of them is where it ought to be. So we got to go with the picture tonight.
there we go. Another guest, Victor, coming in big time, straight and strong
Way to
from
go,
Partez.
Partez.
A lot of fans here. But the other thing I wanted to mention for you folks
Hey,
tonight
that guy,
is
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Partez Croaso is a horse that was disqualified out of in the Kentucky Derby and a horse that won the Florida Derby with Christina Oliveras' father, Frank Oliveras. Croaso won the Florida Derby and Partez was disqualified in the Kentucky Derby.
wow.
How about that?
I was not aware of that. Listen, the horse knowledge is huge tonight. We also, Jay is watching. Jay, is that the Delmar handicapping champion that we're looking at right now? We
The
will get.
answer is yes, as long as Jay doesn't work for the IRS.
All right. We're
Otherwise,
going to
my
get.
name is Gustavo Querten.
Perfect. I like that. That's his alias. We're going to get into that. I mean, Vic has worn many hats, but the other thing I just wanted to mention to our viewers, and Vic, this is important to me. I try to get in touch with a lot of people. I'm certainly, my name in the podcast is getting to be known out there, but you know it's a tough business, and I want everyone to know that I went on Twitter. I DM'd Vic. I don't know him personally. Folks, literally within 30 minutes, Vic got back to me and said, "Great, I'd be happy to do it." So Vic, I really want to thank you for someone that we don't know each other, and there's a lot of people in the business and other businesses that give you lip service and whatnot. But I just want everyone to know that you responded immediately and wanted to come on. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's also a testament that I really have no life and I'm constantly looking at Twitter. But you bet. Hey, we have two things in common. We love horse racing and we want to get the word out. And so
Yes.
that's going to be something that will always carry the day. And I'm more than happy to do it.
Well, I appreciate it. I have a lot of questions for Vic. As I've said, I've been listening to you for years. I have a lot of interesting questions to ask you. This is like the 60 minutes, by the way, of horse racing, Vic. So strap it in and get ready because I've got a lot of great questions that I like to ask you about a little bit about the past and obviously about current horse racing and let people know a little more about Vic Stauffer because you have worn literally many hats in your career. So you're going to see some questions on the bottom of the screen. And just so everyone knows, we are going to be handicapping the late pick five at Saratoga on Saturday, which is an excellent sequence. It's closing weekend. They have three graded stake races that we're going to be covering. But we're going to be talking to Vic for about a good 20, 25 minutes here about his life, and then we will get into the handicapping. So please be patient if you're going to be doing that. So first question that I have, Vic, and again, you're going to see these on the screen. Pretty simple. What makes a good racetrack announcer?
The answer to that is if you are watching your horse, or if you bet on a particular horse, or perhaps more importantly, if you are not watching the race, you have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. I like to consider myself as a racetrack announcer like a play-by-play announcer in that if I can clearly and concisely describe the action that's going on, then I've done my job. I have to remember that somebody out there bet on each and every horse in the race, but I'm also cognizant of the fact, let's say there's a horse that's 3-5. That means that 65% of the money that is bet on that race is on that horse. And so I will keep an extra eye out for that horse more so than a horse that's 50-1, because most of the people that are listening and want to know the relative chances of that horse as compared to the other horses in the race. If I can get through the race and you can understand what I said, and I didn't misrepresent what was happening, and I painted a clear picture, and you're not pissed off by what I've had to say, then it's a good race call.
How important do you believe it is, Vic, to at least name each horse in the race?
I think it's important. I don't think it should be done at the expense of bumble effing through them. But in this day and age, especially when we must remember that 95% of the money that's being bet on a race is being bet by somebody who's not at the racetrack. And most of them are watching in a perfect world on TV, but most of them are watching on their computer, and even more are watching on their phone, and even more are watching on their phone while they're driving. And so this becomes an audio play much more than any of the visuals. And so there's nothing more frustrating than going through a field of horses or betting on a horse, and if at no point in the race your horse gets mentioned, then you don't know if he got scratched, if he got left at the gate, if he refused, if he broke down, you don't know. So I try to make a concerted effort to make sure that everybody gets at least one call. If I'm calling a 6 furlong race, I'll see how it goes the first part of it. And if it's going fairly well for the first 5 or 6 horses, I'll just go ahead and go all the way back through to the 12th horse.
Sure.
Knowing that I can do that again before they get to the quarter pole. If something happened and I had to talk a little bit more about a certain thing, maybe at the back of the pack or a slow starter or trouble, and they're basically straight across from me in the booth at Oaklawn, and I've only gone 5 or 6 deep, I know what I need to do to make sure that I get all 12 in at least once is start over. So I'll go back to the top, and then that gives me plenty of time. It gives me from about the 4.5 to the quarter pole to make sure that I get all 12, or in the case of Hollywood Park, 14 horses in. And then that way everybody gets their money's worth.
Sure. And by the way, we are speaking with the self-proclaimed goof on the roof, Vic Stauffer. Happy to have him here tonight. By the way, 2-time Eclipse Award winner as well for radio and broadcasting. So when Vic tells you how to call a race or the intricacies of race calling, you know we're talking to the right person. And speaking of race calling, Vic, another race caller I had on the show quite a while back, another California guy, Paul Allen. I'm assuming you're familiar with him, who calls races at
I love
Canterbury.
PA.
To me, one of the most underrated race callers, by the way, in the country. A lot of people don't hear him every day because, Canterbury is sort of a mid-level track. But what is it with you California guys and the talent that comes out of there with race calling?
I met PA when he was the announcer at Bay Meadows. And
Right.
I actually sublet his house in Foster City, California, when I was the announcer at Golden Gate Fields, and he would go off
Wow.
and do his thing. So I've known PA for a long time.
Yeah.
He would be considered one of the elite race callers in the world if he was calling a major signal. It's no
Completely
knock
agree
on
with you
Canterbury.
100%. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
it's not a knock on Canterbury, but frankly, Canterbury is not Naira or Southern
Sure.
California or South Florida or Kentucky or Oaklawn. And PA's announcing is such a hybrid in that he really has understood, especially because of the night racing at Canterbury, and you get a different dynamic and a different demographic there.
Yeah.
That he jettisoned what you would consider traditional race calls long ago. And it takes a little while for people that are a little bit more stuck in tradition to get used to Paul's calls. But when they do, they realize that they're absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely.
And I love PA. He's a longtime friend. And you talk about a self-made man. This is a guy that was stringing for the Pasadena Daily News and hoping to be in the press box. And now he's going into his 20th year of being the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that.
That was his first job, Vic. He just walked in and got the job in the interview. I mean, he had no experience covering another sports team, and that's unbelievable. That's unheard of.
And he's terrific.
He is great.
He's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet him. I cover, like I said, Canterbury for in the Money Media, and I had I went up there for the first time in June. Their big Mystic Lake Derby day, and met all the people up there. I can't say enough good things about Paul Allen and the people in Minnesota. So
remember
one similarity. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Remember the old Inside the NFL show on HBO?
Of course.
I was laying on my couch one day, half awake, half asleep, and they were showing highlights of the Vikings game. And Michael Bennett broke through the line at about the 50-yard line, and he was clearly going to run for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And when he got to about the 20-yard line, PA said, and Michael Bennett is straight and strong into the end zone. And I called him in tears, thanking him for
Wow.
honoring me by saying that.
I mean, that's the best compliment you can get, right? I mean, the
Oh,
greatest
yeah.
sincere of flattery is imitation. Uh, so let's talk a little bit about your race culling style because you have an eclectic personality similar to Paul. I love the way you describe. You have a very extensive vocabulary, and you see the question on the bottom. How did you develop that extensive vocabulary and style with a somewhat limited formal schooling that you had? And if you want to talk specifically about some other calls I like where you say, yes at the end of a race, or I know you like you better take a look and a whacker. Talk a little bit about how you developed your style and where all that came from.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because it does tie into having limited schooling. Because most people that don't make it through schools become criminals. Some of them good, some of them bad. My reason why I have these things is plagiarism. I've stolen every one of those things from somebody else. A whacker is something that Todd Schrupp started saying long before me. You better take a look at is something that a guy named Joe Alto, who used to work in Northern California calling the races at Cal Expo, and he also would sometimes call the races when Los Alamitos used to run harness racing of all things.
Yes,
He would
I used to play Los Al harness.
There you go. He coined the phrase "you better take a look at."
Okay.
And what was the third one? Oh,
You
yes,
you like to say yes at the end of
that's
a
just stolen from Marv Albert.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought it might
So
be like an Ed McMahon thing from Johnny Carson. I wasn't sure, but
no,
you know
it's just basically stolen. So
yeah.
almost all of the things that I say are pretty much plagiarized.
And that's okay because you do it in your own style. And I think the key is picking the right spot, right in the right race. If you say those every race, all the time, it gets old. But if you pick the stake race or that certain place within the race, especially like let's say on the turf when you notice that horse closing from way back and you say you better take a look. I think timing is everything with those certain phrases, isn't it?
It is, and also I have gotten to the point now where if I say you better take a look at, and the horse doesn't win,
Yeah.
I get crushed on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I've even become. I used to take more shots with that.
Sure.
Now, if you hear me say that, it means that I'm damn sure that horse is going to get the money unless something completely crazy happens.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. Again, we have a lot of people watching. Folks, please, if you're watching live, make sure you chat on the right side of the screen. We'll be bringing up your comments all night long. And if you are going to watch this as a replay, assumingly before Saturday or really anytime, please comment down below the video player any comments and thoughts, nice thoughts for Vic Stauffer and anything that we talk about today. Next question, Vic. We could talk for 2 hours, but there are two horses in particular that I want to ask you about. As I said, I've been following you since the mid '90s. I've been really following horse racing closely. I'd say since 2000. I just turned 50 years old, so I'm probably in the sweet spot of horse racing handicappers and fans right now. Those two horses, of course, California, Lava Man and Zenyatta. Let me ask you about Lava Man first. What an unbelievable
Good.
horse and story he was. Do you have any specific story that you'd like to share about the great Lava Man?
Oh, I mean, he really represented everything that he was like a modern day Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
He was claimed by the people that owned him and Doug O'Neill for $25,000. They actually ran him back for 50, and he didn't get claimed. Imagine
Correct.
if he had.
Unbelievable.
Um,
How much did he
and
win after the claim? I know it was about three. Was it 3 million? Some I don't know exactly. You probably know.
well, he ended up with 5, and I don't think he was probably at about 100. He ended up with 5.5 million, and he was probably
So
less than 100,000 when they
unbelievable.
claimed him. So
That's a pretty good
basically,
claim.
all of it.
That's the claim of all time, isn't it?
It's one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
there are others that are pretty close,
Yeah.
but it's certainly one of them. He did something that only one other horse has ever done, and that is truly a iconic Hall of Famer, native diver, and that is that he won 3 consecutive Hollywood Gold Cups.
Yeah.
They were really terrific with the way they shared Lava Man with the racing fans, and that's a great testament to Doug O'Neill, who is a good friend, and he did a remarkable job with that horse. And so he was actually in when Lava Man won his third Hollywood Gold Cup. Doug was in a pub in Ireland and listening to the call on his cell phone,
Hmm.
and and he said he enjoyed that. He I, he just was the personification of everything that you're looking for in a racehorse,
Yep.
and he didn't travel so well out of California, but he certainly traveled well within California. In
Yes.
that, at when he was at his apex, the three racetracks in California were diametrically different: Santa Anita, Hollywood Park, and Del Mar. And Lava Man was dominant on all three of them. So I think he gets an unfair knock for not traveling all that well. Very few horses do at an elite level. But boy, he certainly had California down. And if if you get to, you can't make a historic race call without a historic horse. It just can't be done. And so I'm very fortunate that when people go back and say, "Wow, I didn't know a horse won 3 Gold Cups in a row," 20 years from now, they'll look it up and then they'll get to listen to me talk about it. One of the 3 Gold Cups, I didn't think he won. If you go back and listen to the call,
Yep.
I pretty much called Ace Blue the winner. I didn't say that he was the winner, but I said that I thought he won the race. And see, that also adds to the legend of Lava Man,
Sure.
because I'm okay at calling photo finishes. I didn't think he won that one. And
Yeah.
it's like he said, okay, F you, Stauffer. I did anyway. So
And by the way,
he,
he's still a stable pony and still quote unquote working. Unbelievable, helping out Doug O'Neill's younger horses. You see him on the track all the time. I mean, it's just he's just a horse that just loves to be around other horses and people. He's just an amazing animal, really.
all the time. We had a time at Hollywood Park where we put Lava Man and Kona Gold together because they were
Mm,
both stable ponies at the same time. And they
okay.
were both in the post parade for a race. And Lava Man is he's such a character around the barn. They have this bin in the Doug O'Neill shed row where there's a bunch of food, a bunch of grain and food in there. And if nobody's watching, Lava Man has ways of getting untied when he's tied, and he'll go straight over, open the bin, and start eating until they get him and put him back where he's supposed to be. A
That's
very
awesome.
cool horse. Very cool
Listen,
horse.
I think my favorite. By the way, Michael Bryant, I see your question. Your question, Michael, I'm going to address in a little bit here. I think my favorite call of yours, the Lava Man, is you said the real rags to riches. I believe I recall correctly. I'm not sure if that was the same year that Rags to Riches won the Belmont, but I love that particular line. I'm sure you know the phrase I'm talking about within one of his wins.
Yeah, I some people accuse me of overmodulating. Uh, if I am guilty of that, that was one of the classic examples of that because I kind of just blew my cool there.
Yeah, I know that was
But
great. Let,
I
let
never
I,
I never tried to be contrived with that. If you heard me say or do something that maybe sounded over the top,
yeah,
it was it was just trying to be honest with my what my feelings were at the
sure.
time I was seeing what I was seeing.
Sure. Let's talk about the other one, Partez, the Amazon. You had the pleasure of calling many races of Zenyatta, but you did call, of course, her maiden breaking win. And Vic, she was. I watched it again today. Just I got some chills watching it. I was always a big fan. She actually was 5-1 in that race. Did you have a sense? We're not going to show the replay again. We could spend 5 hours, going over replays and showing highlights. But did you have a sense after that race that she was special? The one thing I will say that stuck out to me right away, just from a handicapping perspective, was she was just huge. I mean, she towered over the rest of the horses in that race, and just her stride was unbelievable right from the get go.
Yeah, in retrospect, it was probably one of her more difficult races just by given the fact that she was winning going 3 quarters. Can you imagine Zenyatta trying to win going 6 furlongs?
I mean,
That
yeah.
race impressed me, but not anything special.
Okay.
Anytime you see a first time starter in California that can sit and finish and then blow a field away down the lane and gallop out like she did, it's impressive, but we see that all the time. I mean, I called
Sure.
Ghost Zapper when he broke his maiden at Hollywood Park, and the race was eerily similar to that. So the answer to her first race is no. Her answer to her second race
Yeah.
is obviously yes. You could tell in the second race of her career, she looked like Jackie Joyner Kersey in her second Olympics running against a bunch of 14-year-old middle schoolers.
Just
I mean,
toying
it
with the
really
field.
looked that like that.
Yeah.
And I took a shot, and I didn't really even so much think about what I was saying. I just was again trying to report. Um, Chances are I could have really sounded awful with what I said when I dubbed her a future superstar.
Sure.
Fortunately, I got lucky, and she made me sound smart. But if of all of Zenyatta's 19 wins, the one that I have watched the most is the second race of her life,
Wow.
because that really um, that was when you knew that you were looking at something completely off the charts different than just your common everyday good racehorse.
Yeah, and she had some close calls. One in particular, I'm not going to show the replay, but Vic, I still thought St. Trinian's was going to win.
So did I.
I had St. Trinian's in the vanity. She had that sort of really weird way of going, but that was a very good horse. And how Zenyatta caught her, I thought that was the day that she was going to lose. I bet against Zenyatta that day. I still remember it. St. Trinian's could not hold off though the Amazon, could she?
Well, it wasn't even a matter of holding off, because here's the true greatness of Zenyatta. Martin Garcia rode such a perfect race on St. Trinian's. He rode the race as if there were no other horses in the race
Yep.
except Zenyatta. And leaving the 3/8 pole, I know, because rest in peace, one of my great and good friends was Mike Mitchell. And he said, if you don't get the jump on this big bitch, you can't beat her.
Hmm.
And so Martin waited, and then leaving the 3/8 pole, he got after St. Trinian's probably earlier than you would
Yep.
ever get after a horse in a grade one.
Legitimate
But
what three a legitimate what 3 length jump, I would say, be fair to say, maybe four even.
well, yeah, maybe even more than that,
Yeah.
because he was trying to catch Mike Smith flat-footed
Yeah.
and Zenyatta, and he
Yeah.
did it. It worked.
Yeah.
But the thing that's most amazing when you go back and look at that race is Zenyatta ran down a horse that was running away from everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is so remarkable about her win. St. Trinian's was not slowing down. She was probably going as fast at the 16th pole as she had at any point in the race.
Yeah.
She wasn't tiring.
No.
She was firing the kind of race that will cause you to win 99.9% of 100 grade ones. And Zenyatta ran her down as she was running away from everybody else. One of the one of a litany of amazing efforts by Zenyatta, but to me, I agree with you. It's the race. She won by shorter margins. She only beat a
Right.
novice creation in the Clement Hirsch by an
Right.
inch.
Right.
Um, but running down St. Trinian's was one of Queenie's crowning moments, no doubt.
Yeah, and St. Trinian's, with all due respect, was a better horse. That was just a better, a higher quality race. And Hollywood Park, by the way, Vic, I loved the cushion track. I thought it was a very fair surface. So I wouldn't think, well, it was a synthetic surface, so it was easy to close. No, it was a very fair surface. We saw horses win on the lead. It just made everything that Zenyatta did special. But that's not my favorite call. I know a lot of people are listening and would like to hear, what's your favorite call? What's my favorite call of yours? I'm going to bring it up right now. So just give me a second here. There's a horse that we have not mentioned that, in my opinion, Vic, is one of the most underrated horses uh, in my lifetime, the last 30 years or so. And it was a horse that was out west. And I'm going to pull it up right now in the replay. I watched this replay again today, Vic, and I got chills. I'm hoping this is one of your favorite calls as well. I'm about to bring it up with sound, by the way, as well, so everyone can enjoy it. This is from, let's see if Vic can guess. This is from, let me get the date. This is from December 2013. It's the cash call futurity, and it is shared belief, everyone. Please enjoy the last seconds of shared belief in the cash call futurity. Vic, I just got chills again. I absolutely love that call. Talk a little about shared belief and that call in particular.
I'm not entirely sure everybody heard the call, Howard, because
Oh, really?
My wife just hollered from the other room, no sound. But
Really?
yeah, but
Okay.
maybe it's just my wife.
I
We don't pay.
apologize.
We don't
Well,
pay
that shouldn't have
our.
happened. Okay.
Well,
So let me interrupt you. If people could type in the chat if you heard the sound or not. If not, we'll try to play it again later. But again, people that are watching the live chat, if you could go ahead and just tell us if you heard that sound or not, we'd greatly appreciate it. But go ahead, Vic.
what a brilliant racehorse.
Oh,
He was never really that sound.
yeah.
Jerry Hollendorfer and his assistant Dan Ward did a remarkable job. Shared Belief had awful, and I mean awful feet, and he was actually trained by a guy named Jed Josephson up at Golden Gate Fields when he broke his maiden, and they bought him for not that much money because they bought him knowing that his feet were touch and go, that he may or may not get only a couple of races out of him. And the job that Jerry and Dad did keeping Shared Belief sound and now see now I'm getting a feedback listening to myself, so maybe it'll
I think it's. I'm sorry. Let's hear. I know that we just. Let's just. It's such a great replay here. Let's just watch it again. The sound should be working. I apologize, folks. Here's Shared Belief one more time. And Vic, if you want to chime in while the video's going to make sure the sound works, that'd be great.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there I am.
All right.
He's now in front of Brother Soldier. Shared Belief is about to take second, and here's Shared Belief after Candy Boy at the top of the stretch. Tamarando is moving up. He's drawn within 2.5 of the lead. They run to the top of the stretch, and we have a new leader. It is Shared Belief, and he takes charge. Shared Belief suddenly opens up 3, 4, 5 legs. Here's a superstar. Shared Belief at the 16th pole is 7 lengths in front of Candy Boy. The road to the Kentucky Derby might be through the jungle. Shared Belief, yes! Wow, he's for real. Shared Belief, 7. Candy Boy, 2nd. Tamarando, 3rd.
Love it. Anyway, go ahead, Vic. You were saying about Shared Belief. A little ouchy, a little sensitive health-wise.
Yeah, I mean, he just a tremendous amount of ability. I know you understood the reference of Through the Jungle in that Shared Belief was owned by Jim Rome.
Yeah.
And that's why I said something about going through the jungle.
Can I interrupt you a second, Vic? Because I have a question about that. I've always wanted to ask. I'm so happy to talk to you tonight. You have no idea. I always wanted to ask you this question because Shared Belief, I was a big fan, and I was a big fan of yours. I realize that sometimes in huge races that race callers, think about what they want to say before the race and there's preconceived, notions and rehearsal. Was that completely off the cuff or is that something you thought about saying if Shared Belief opened up in the stretch?
If I've made I've called 44,000 races. If I've made 100 calls that people really liked because I said something in the call, 2 of them were off the cuff. The other 98 were not only preconceived, they were rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
if you want to sound like you're saying something for the first time and take a shot at that,
Risky.
good on you. But
so this one was rehearsed a little bit.
Not a little bit. It was rehearsed a lot.
Terrific.
Um,
Makes sense.
Al Michaels rehearsed "Do You Believe in Miracles" for 3 days before the hockey game. So
I'm
the
sure
answer is
Jim Nantz probably does the same thing. I'm guessing, correct? I would assume.
I would think so. I mean, there are calls out there that the guys have tried to say something ad-libbing and it just doesn't work. And I've had times where I've rehearsed stuff and it didn't come across.
Sure.
I've had other times where I've missed some that I should have thought of, like the Count Fleet this year. I didn't call it a Breeders' Cup rematch between CZ Rocket and Whitmore. Why not? That was stupid.
Sure.
But the answer is yes. I did think in advance about things that I was going to say.
Mm-hmm.
I did rehearse things I was going to say. By the way, I learned all of that from Tom Durkin. Tom Durkin not only thought about what he was going to say and rehearsed what he was going to say, he scripted it.
Yeah.
I've seen the notebooks that he would have in the announcer's booth before races in the Breeders' Cup. And so the answer is 100% yes. You know who ran in the next race after Shared Belief?
Who's that?
California Chrome.
Is that right? Oh, it's right. And it was that was a California restricted race, if I recall, right?
It was.
Right.
And when I was watching that race, my eye turned to the upper left-hand corner of that screen, and I saw something that it broke my heart that day. It breaks my heart today, and it'll break my heart for the next 25 years if I'm lucky enough to stay on this planet for that time. And that's the date of that race, which was December 14th of 2013.
Correct.
Which was closing day at Hollywood Park. So
well, and we that just I'll tell you, your segues without even knowing are excellent. And again, there are a lot of things I want to get to, folks, and we do want to handicap. And Vic, not only did Vic get back to me right away with getting on the show, but he said he'd be willing to stay on longer. So we might even stretch it out to about 9:30 tonight or Eastern time. If Vic is willing. If not, of course, that's absolutely fine. But Partez wants to know, I'm not going to bring up the last call at Hollywood Park, but when you ran through all the horses that had run, when the horses were on the backstretch, and also, what I thought was cool about that race is that Seanock won the last race, who, by the way, should be in the Hall of Fame. It's an absolute travesty.
I vote for him every year.
Corey Nakatani won the last race. Just very briefly, because I know you could talk for half an hour. Talk about your thoughts on that last call at Hollywood Park, if you could.
The one thing about the last call at Hollywood Park that was very different than any other race calls I've ever made is that we knew for 6 months what the last race at Hollywood Park was going to be.
Sure.
And so I knew that I wanted to try to do something to honor Hollywood Park. And over that course of 6 months, I must have had 50 different incarnations of what I thought was correct to say, including nothing at any point. And
that would have been interesting.
I just thought, what am I going to say that these horses can't say for themselves and the tradition of this place? That got shot down. But over the course of those 6 months, I thought about it every day, and I had all kinds of different ideas of what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I reached out to a lot of other announcers for their input as to what they thought of some of the ideas that I had were. Larry Colmus, Frank Miramati, Michael Rona, Ed Burgart, Paul Allen, and others. And at about 20 minutes before the last race at Hollywood Park, I still hadn't completely decided what I was going to do.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then as they came out onto the racetrack, I got lucky in that they were, of course, late coming out because of all of the hoopla. And so I got a chance to see the horses and the jocks in the paddock for quite a while. It was dark. The lighting system at Hollywood Park at the end was awful, and I don't see too well anyway. But I pretty much knew the field almost instantaneously. So I didn't have to spend a heck of a lot of time memorizing the horses. My wife was up there in the booth, and also my good and great friend for many, many years, a guy named James O, J-O in the twit on Twitter. And he said, follow your heart and do what you think is right. And I had, now this was a scripted call, but it was more of, Jay Hovde ripped me about this call, saying that I made it about myself rather than about the horses that were in that race. That race was a 40 starter.
Even though you named about 10 horses that have raced there, and I mean that's amazing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I didn't think it was fair because I knew that first and foremost I needed to call this race clearly and accurately, and I thought I did. I called them all before they got halfway through the clubhouse turn. I called them all again from about the half-mile pole to the quarter pole, and then I mixed in the things that I thought were appropriate. But I didn't know. You certainly don't know how a race is going to break at any point. If I did, I'd make money gambling on horses. But if I knew the components that I wanted to try to get in, and the only thing that was ad lib was I didn't anticipate that it would be an inch. So the only thing that was ad lib was this. It comes down to a camera close up.
Yep.
That I made up when they hit the wire.
And that's a wrap.
That's a wrap was scripted. That was scripted. And so was 12 seconds left out of 75 years. And listing the horses, knowing that I would list Zenyatta last.
Yeah.
All of that was preconceived. But
Woodman's Luck. Actually, I had a win bet on him because I love
Woodman's Luck. Vladimir Serin.
Yes, sir.
A good friend, a great guy, and a vastly underrated trainer. Really a sharp guy.
Perfect inside-outside ride. Just great way to end it. Vic, I don't want to. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're going to go ahead and move on a little bit if you don't mind, but it was just a great call. So, Vic, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do about 10 minutes left before we start handicapping the pick five. I have a segment that my various guests have enjoyed and the viewers have enjoyed very much. I have named it myself. It is called 10 minutes to post, everyone. 10 minutes to post. Here's what we're going to do, Vic. These are going to be more rapid fire. I'm going to take your face off. Actually, we can leave you on the screen. These are going to be more rapid fire answers, okay? So, somewhere between, 10 to 20 second answers if you don't mind. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the handicapping. The first 5 questions, Vic, are going to be non-horse racing questions. I've done my research. I know you pretty well, so I think you'll enjoy these questions. But the viewers might be surprised by some of this, and that's sort of the point of doing these questions. And then the last 5 will be specific to horse racing. Are we ready?
20 seconds is very difficult for a guy like me.
Well, I won't put the clock out, but
it takes me an hour and a half to watch 60 Minutes.
Listen, people, I'll be happy to stay on as long as you want. I just don't want to, take advantage of your time. So you can make the answers as long as you want. I just want to make sure we, at some point, get to handicapping the late pick 5. But I love
which, by the way, is the only thing that people care about right now. I can promise you that. I've done a lot of seminars, and I make them listen to all of my pontifications before I give the picks, because if you give the picks at the end, you'll be talking to, or at the beginning, you'll be talking to yourself at the end of the seminar.
Exactly. The place will be empty as you give the picks. Exactly right.
That I learned a long time ago.
You're exactly right. First question, Vic. The craziest promotion you've seen in a minor league baseball stadium, and you might need to explain to the viewers why I'm asking you that question.
Wow.
Or a promotion that you've been involved with for reasons you can explain to the viewers.
The craziest promotion was trying to get Jose Canseco to be capable of hitting a ball off of the left center field wall and get to first base before being thrown out.
Wow.
Throwing
shade as usual. I love it. Well, tell people why I asked the question, Vic. Your background with
I used to own a very small part of a independent league baseball team in Pittsburgh, California.
Yes.
And one of our promotions, which was really crazy when I tell you the fact that we paid Jose Canseco $40,000 to come and play the rest of the season for us when the entire payroll for the rest of the team for the whole season was $8,000.
The other players must have loved that.
They really liked it.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Did you get the 350 people in the stands that you were hoping for?
I don't think we got that many. And most of them wanted to get autographs, and as soon as they did, they left.
That's great.
But he hit a ball off the left center field wall and damn near got thrown out at first base because he could not run.
It's crazy.
What
an interesting life he's had. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Next question, Vic. And again, you're going to need to probably explain this to the people watching. The toughest type of call for an umpire to make: balls and strikes, a tag play, or a fair or foul call?
The reason you're asking that is because I am an umpire. I do high school and junior college baseball. Balls and strikes are easy because they are whatever the hell you say they are. Fair or foul is not as easy, but it's very important that you get into a perfect position, give yourself every chance to see it well, and then sell the hell out of the call. If you think you don't say anything if it's fair, so you can't really sell that.
Right.
But if it's foul and you're looking down the right field line,
one of those,
and the ball hits an inch foul and you go, foul ball.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. But if you throw your arms up and go, foul, and then take your arms and wave towards out of bounds, they figure, geez, if he's that sure of it, I guess he's right.
He sounds confident.
Tag plays can go either way because it is almost impossible to get umpiring or officiating is always entirely about the angles that you can get.
Yeah.
Well, you never necessarily know where the tag is going to be applied.
Sure.
So,
plus in high school games in Arkansas, I'm guessing there aren't 3 or 4 umpires out there.
There's 2. Yeah. There's the plate umpire and the base umpire.
That makes it even harder, of course, correct?
It makes it even harder. So sometimes it's if the ball beat him there and it seems reasonable that he got tagged. Yeah. But for as difficult as it is for you, it's just as difficult for the coach who's sitting in the dugout another 150 feet away.
Of course.
So again, you sell it. If he comes out and yells, you say, hey, look, coach, I got a good look at it. I think I'm in the right position. I feel good about my call. Let's go.
Sure. Next question. Best part about living in Hot Springs? I know you've relocated there relatively recently.
People, the people.
Yeah.
Everybody in this town loves horse racing. You cannot go into any place within a 25-mile radius of the racetrack and not have them recognize you and know that you're part of Oaklawn, and it's something that they grew up with. It's been part of their heritage since the beginning. Everybody is so kind and so nice, and just good old-fashioned down home, nice, caring people.
It's on my bucket list. I've never been. My initial plan is to go next spring, so I might be giving you a phone call just to let you know I'm going to be in town. But I hear, by the way, I play a little bit of Texas Hold'em once in a while, so I hear there's a casino there and the hotel and the whole town. I'm sure you've got some great restaurant ideas for me. So
sure.
Hopefully I can work that out.
We don't have live Hold'em. I can tell you that we don't.
Oh, okay.
We don't
That's
have
all right.
it,
I'll still come.
There you go.
I'll be happy to buy you a beverage, Vic, of your choice, or take you out to dinner. That'd be wonderful.
My wife is listening in the other room.
She's more than welcome to come, of course.
Well, you're going to need her because she runs the press box.
Oh, okay.
So when you come to Oaklawn, if you want to come up and spend some races with me in the announcer's booth and hang out in the press box, you got to get on the right side of Miss Martina. So
all right, I'll do whatever she needs. Paul Allen, no pressure here, but Paul let me up to the press box, and I've got video of him calling a race, so no pressure. No pressure there.
How am I doing with 20 seconds an answer?
He called the first race, Vic, and it was a 25-1 shot that won, which that I didn't have in my early pick for. But anyway, it was great. Best or most memorable non-horse racing sports event you've ever attended?
Game 7 of the NBA Finals when LeBron teleported from half court to block Andre Iguodala's layup.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And then
That was
Kyrie Irving made a
unbelievable.
jump shot to win it. I've never seen anything in a live sporting event like LeBron blocking that shot. Iguodala didn't dunk it because there was no reason to dunk it, because you're more likely to make a layup than you are a dunk, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
I thought he was clear. What am I worried about, right?
He was clear.
Yeah.
He was 10 feet clear, and
It's
somehow LeBron teleported and blocked that shot, and I can see it in my eyes right now, and there is absolutely no way that a human being can go from where he was to where he had to be to block the shot. And I was at Oracle Arena that night.
This leads to my last non-horse racing question. Did you have a favorite athlete growing up?
Jerry West.
The symbol, the legend.
The logo.
The logo. There we go. Yeah.
When I used to play basketball by myself on the court at the elementary school next to my house, I would emulate what Jerry would do. He had this knack of always looking up at the clock, more so than any player I've ever seen. So if I would make a shot or I'd do anything, playing basketball by myself, full court basketball by myself, I tried to do everything I tried to do exactly like Jerry West.
That's great. He was an incredible. I'm not old enough to see him live, but I know he was an excellent player, and of course he's the logo and just a true gentleman as well.
Can I give you my second favorite athlete? Not growing up, but since then, because it's a no-brainer. It's not even close, and it's Russell Bays.
Wow. Okay.
By far.
Yeah. I mean, what a career. Unbelievable. And I think, you know what, we could go on, but I think he gets knocked a little bit for winning, with smaller fields at Golden Gate or Bay Meadows. But if you watched him consistently, the guy just made right decisions like all the time.
He rode down south.
How many correct decisions he would make within a race was just amazing.
He rode down south and was top 5 and making more money than he ever made at Golden Gate or Bay Meadows. Yeah. But he didn't ride as many winners, and Russell just loved to ride winners. If he'd have rode his entire career down south, he wouldn't have won 12,600 races, but he would be considered one of the greats.
I would agree.
So that stuff about, well, he was on a lesser circuit. There's a lot of guys on lesser circuits, but none of them won 12-6.
No, for sure. I mean, he was incredible. Let's get into 5 horse racing questions, folks, and then we're going to handicap. What was the first moment you fell in love with horse racing? Was there a specific moment?
Yeah, I walked into Del Mar. I was in junior high school, and I heard Harry Henson call a race. And when he called it, the way it made me feel as he was relaying the excitement of the race through that incredible, iconic, gravelly voice. And this is before it was a TV sport. It's when it was a public address sport. I remember walking in and hearing Harry and knowing that I was going to be part of horse racing for the rest of my life.
Wow. That's really moving. That's amazing. And I'd say things have worked pretty well for you. What's the best or most memorable horse racing event you've ever attended? It doesn't even have to be a race that you called. Just you were there for it.
When Queenie won the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic.
Okay.
Tina and I were patrons. We bought seats in the grandstand. We're in the last row. And earlier that day, a jock that I was representing at the time won the Breeders' Cup Sprint, which was a $2 million race. So it was already a wonderful day.
Yeah.
But the entire grandstand was shaking at Santa Anita. I mean, it was as if there was an earthquake. And when she came weaving through the field,
This
And
is I mean, what a great call by Trevor, too.
it was an iconic
Great call.
call.
Great call.
And you could hear it. You could actually hear it over the din. You could hear it. And then I remember John Sheriff's walking along on the outside fence and throwing his hat over the fence.
Yeah.
Which, if you know John Sheriff's, that was a long shot that he would do something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So the most memorable horse racing event ever attended would be that, and then the second one, I was at the Belmont when Justify won the Triple Crown. So that was pretty cool too.
That's a good one too. You touched on this. A lot of people might not know that you were a jockey agent. Do you have a specific story or maybe a particular moment that you would say was your crowning achievement as a jockey agent?
Yeah, I just said it.
Right there.
Dancing in Silks. I represented Joel Rosario for 28 months, not long after he came to Southern California. And Carla Gaines didn't want to run Dancing in Silks in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He was coming off a layoff. He had won one race, the Green Flash down at Del Mar, which is 5/8 on the turf.
On the turf, yeah.
And she's a conservative gal. And between the owner, Ken Kanakin, Ricky Aguirre, who was Carla's assistant, myself, I played a small role, and Joel, we talked her into running him, and he won, paid $54 to win, and so I got a commission for that on a $2 million race. Can I tell you a very quick story about that day?
Please do. Go ahead.
This is when I knew I was engaged to my lovely bride, Tina, at the time. And this is when I knew exactly what it was going to be like to be married. That week, Rosario not only won a $2 million race, but he won some other little stakes and a couple of allowance races. And my check for that week was $38,000.
Wow. That's a good week.
And we had to wait a little bit longer because the Breeders' Cup checks, there's a little bit more testing in the Breeders' Cup. So the check didn't come in until a little bit later. But finally, one day I walked up to her and I said, "Baby, we just got our Breeders' Cup check." And she said, "Great, how much is it?" And I said, "It's $38,000. And she looked me straight in the eye and said, "How much of it do you want?" I knew that day what it was going to be like to be married.
I will not ask how that money was spent, but I'm guessing there was perhaps some jewelry involved. Would that be fair to say? Female jewelry?
It's actually, what it did was it went for a down payment on a house in Samuel, California.
That's a pretty darn good investment right there.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I've asked all my guests this question. I've got a lot of very interesting answers. Is there a bucket list track or race day event anywhere in the world you'd like to attend that you've not yet?
A bucket list track. What a great
or race day event. Would you like to hear mine?
I would. I would love to hear yours.
Number one by far, Melbourne Cup.
I thought about saying the Melbourne Cup.
Vic, I have heard, obviously it's the race that stops the nation, right? But I have heard that it makes the Kentucky Derby look like just a little cocktail party at Thursday afternoon.
I've heard that too. Barry Abrams told me he would rather win the Melbourne Cup than the Kentucky Derby. I've never been to Saratoga.
Sorry if I stole your answer. I apologize.
No, you didn't. I've never been to Saratoga, so
you know what?
I guess
I have not either. I'm going.
That
next
would have
year.
to be my bucket list track.
I've not been there either, but I'm going there. That's
race day event. Maybe the Arc.
Okay,
might be cool.
Yeah,
but
that's a good answer.
I've called the Ferndale Marathon, the Humboldt Cali Marathon.
If
I hadn't called that would be the event that I'd most like to attend. But I actually called about 12 of them. So I'm going to go. My bucket list track would be Saratoga, and my bucket list race maybe the Arc.
All right. Best advice you received as an announcer, and from whom?
The best advice I received from an announcer was from Dave Johnson. I said to him one day, "Boy, I made a lousy call today." Is this a podcast where you can say bad words?
Sure, why not, Vic? Go ahead.
Okay. I said to Dave, I said, "Boy, I made some lousy calls today." He said, "Did you say fuck?" I said, "No." He said, "You did fine." And
that's great.
And it really struck me that you prepare, you do the best you can, You invite anybody else that would like to try it, come have at it. And if you get through the day and you didn't get fired because you said fuck over the air, you did fine. And you can do better the next time. And that really took, when he told me that, it took a tremendous amount of pressure off of me.
Yeah.
Because I've made some horrifically bad calls. But that day, I have always remembered that. And then Tom Durkin also, Tom by far helped me more than anybody else. And
that's great to hear, because I hope you are a very close second, along with Trevor Denman, but Tom's my favorite, I have to say. I hope you're not upset about that.
Believe me, when I got the job at Gulfstream Park, a couple of weeks after I started, a lady came up to me and she said, you sound a little like Tom Durkin. And I said, there's a reason for that. She said, why is that? I said, because I'm not good enough to sound exactly like Tom Durkin. The greatest announcer that ever lived, and if there's another 500 of us, it wouldn't be close. The best.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt your story, but CJ is a big fan of ours. He watches the show. His favorite race, for reasons he's told me, was when Lady Apple won the Fantasy. That was you, correct? Who called that race, or was that?
You bet it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
she went on to win a grade one at Churchill.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 more questions, and then we'll be handicapping everyone. Sorry, hold on a second. Actually, nope, that was it. Well, the last question. Favorite horse and why? All time.
Hal's Hope.
Oh, wow, okay. Florida bred, right?
Florida bred.
Yeah.
I had always wanted to be an announcer at a big time racetrack. I for many, many, many years was the Crash Davis of announcers, playing in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And I was given the opportunity to call the races in 2000 by Doug Don at Gulfstream Park. And Hal's Hope won the first Florida Derby that I ever called. He beat a horse called High Yield, who was 3-5, Pat Day and Wayne Lucas. Hal's Hope was Harold Rose and Roger Velez at 43-1.
Okay.
And after I got through that and came to, after hyperventilating, it wasn't that good of a call, but it wasn't that bad either.
Sure.
And I felt I owed such a debt of gratitude to not only Gulfstream, but also to Hal's Hope, because all I ever wanted to do was call big races on a big stage. And there's no bigger stage at that time of the year than the Florida Derby.
Absolutely.
So he's my favorite.
Okay. Very good. Here's what we do. Vic, do you want to take a 1-minute break and then go into handicapping, or do you want us to continue on?
I'm ready.
All right, let's rock and roll. I might. I thought I heard a knock on the door. I might need to take a 1-minute break, but if that happens, that'd be very unusual. If that happens, I'll let you folks know. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get into the handicapping. The late pick 5 at Saratoga. It's closing weekend. They have a fantastic sequence. By the way, Vic, I hope you enjoyed those questions. It was great to hear your answers there. Let's get some handicapping answers. Vic, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is an excellent handicapper. He's been involved in contests. He's an excellent contest player. Before we get started, Vic, I know that you have a great affinity for thorograph numbers. Now, we have a wide variety of people that watch the show, Vic. We have people like myself who've been, handicapping for 20 or 30 years. And then we have others that have just started a few months ago. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with speed figures, but I know that you very much like thoroughgraphs. Will you briefly explain to the viewers who don't know maybe the difference between thoroughgraphs and buyers and or Ragozin, please?
There's not a heck of a lot of difference between Thorograph and Ragozin. They're both, Len Ragozin was a genius. Jerry Brown learned from Len and actually made what I think is a better product. But if there was no Thorograph, believe me, I'd read Ragozin. Buyer figures, Andy Buyer understood something before anybody else, even before Jerry and Len, and that is fast horses beat slow horses. People have been betting money on horses for 150 years for a lot of reasons. And the great preponderance of that money has been built for some reason other than fast horses beat slow horses.
Sure.
Why? I don't know, but that's
Sure.
the simple fact of the matter. Buyers, Thorograph, and Ragozin, they reduce a horse's effort to a single number, a number that you can compare and contrast to the other horses in the race. They don't care what that horse's mother did. They don't care who rode the horse. They don't care who trained the horse. They don't care about anything except for what did that horse do on that day on that track. And if you can believe implicitly in that number, then you can know things that there's no other way to know by looking at any other form of comparing and contrasting. And with due respect, even the buyers. And Andy Beyer was so far ahead of his time, but Thorograph and Ragozin, basically because of the variant and how they do it, they've taken it another 10 levels above.
And Thorograph usually, what, about 2 or 3 points lower than Ragozin's, correct?
I guess. I haven't looked at a Ragozin sheet. I've looked at about 5 Ragozin sheets in my life.
Okay.
But I do know this.
For people that look into it, Vic, it's just a number, and actually the lower the number, the faster the number, which is
correct.
Completely different, obviously, than Buyers.
Nothing is factored into that except for the track variant, ground lost, weight carried, and the wind. Whether or not the horse went too fast or too slow early, whether or not he got a good ride or a bad ride, whether or not he took up or didn't take up, those are all for us as handicappers to try to add into the quantification of the actual number. But the number is a pure number. So I can tell you, if in a vacuum, 2 horses were running straight, going 1.25 miles, and they carried the exact same weight, and they ran exactly the same straight, and one runs 2s on Thorograph and the other one runs 4s on Thorograph, the horse that runs 4s will never, ever, absent a catastrophic injury or a bleeding episode, the horse that runs the 2s will never lose to the horse that runs the 4s. Now, obviously, so many other factors go into it, but if you have this basic foundation of knowing who's fast and who isn't, you're far in front of the game.
Sure. And I know a lot of breeders and pin hookers and whatnot look at Thorograph numbers for breeding purposes. It definitely affects the price of a horse that you're going to buy, doesn't it?
Oh, you bet it does. Yeah. Absolutely.
At the sales, they definitely.
Especially back in the day when Jerry or Lynn would be the only ones to know.
Yeah.
You know, they would see a horse run. They would see 2 horses run at Gulfstream. They'd both break their maiden in 10 flat. One of them would run a 16, the other one would run an 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they would know.
Oh, yeah.
And so they would know that the one that ran an 8 was worth $250 if they were asking $100, and the one that ran a 16, they're asking for $100, and he was worth $45.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, sure.
All right, folks, we're going to dive in to the late pick 5. What you see on the bottom of the screen, most of you know. Again, Vic may or may not know. You see my picks there. H, of course. Vic picks there after the V. You're going to go with the horse. Let's talk about this first race here of the pick 5. It's the Grade 3 Saranac on the inner turf, mile 16th. It's restricted for 3-year-olds. And you're going to go with the quote-unquote, and I say that in quotes because we know as handicappers what can happen, the other, quote-unquote, other Chad Brown, a horse that had a very interesting replay that we're going to show last race and is improving, number 5, Founder.
Yeah, he is improving, and as a matter of fact, he doesn't really have to improve any more than his last race in Monmouth. In that win,
pull up the replays as we're talking here. Go ahead.
Cool. If you'd like. In that win at Monmouth, he actually ran a faster figure than the race that Public Sector ran at Saratoga. And the Beyer figures are dramatically different, 81 and 88. But I can tell you, Founder ran the fastest turf race of any horse that's in this race.
He's the 4. Side her up. He's the 4 in last. I'll let you go ahead and talk through the replay if you'd like.
Okay. You want to just watch him?
That's fine. It's up to you.
Well, He gets 2 pounds from Public Sector, but that'll probably be mitigated by the fact that Public Sector is on the rail. Founder is not nearly as reliable to run his best race, where Public Sector, I would be shocked if he doesn't run at least his best race or even better. He has a beautiful pattern that each and every race he just gets incrementally a little bit better. But Founder is a little bit faster, and Public Sector is 7-5 and Founder's 4-1, and Founder gets 2 pounds from Public Sector. Those two look to me like they are head and shoulders above. You'll notice that I didn't put in Never Surprised. I didn't because he's off a long layoff. There are no. He blew up at 2-5, which I'm not real forgiving of that. But he does get 6 pounds, which is a very, very big deal. I think he's a good horse to leave alone. He's Pure Gold is really getting better, but he beat State Breds last time out, and I do think that that's a factor. So I'm on Founder in the 8th.
So just to clarify, because this is very interesting, this is why I love having different guests on this show with varying opinions. You're saying according to Thorograph, and again, if you don't want to give away too much information, we understand. But on Thorograph numbers, Founder is clearly better than Public Sector, even though by the buyers he's several, 5 to 6 points slower. Is that correct?
Yes, on Thorograph numbers, and I'm not giving away the house. I will tell you the two numbers.
Sure.
No, and again, I have to stress this because there's nobody that likes and respects and believes in Andy Beyer more than me. I've known Andy for 40 years, and I think he's a genius. I think if I had a daily racing form and I was only allowed to take one thing out of the racing form, everything else got redacted, and I could only look at one thing, I would look at the Beyer figures, and I believe in them. However, they are not as good, in my personal opinion, as Thorograph and Ragazine.
Fair enough.
Founder just ran a 6.5 on Thorograph, and Public Sector just ran a 7.5, so a full point slower.
And one of the reasons, just so people understand, again, we're only going to take about 6 or 7 minutes on each race, but if you folks recall when Vic was talking about Thorographs, it takes ground loss into account. You saw Founder was very wide there on the final turn. Meanwhile, you see the last race of Public Sector, who's the 2, saved ground the entire way, just got a dream trip, and then, of course, the rail opens up, and he just lost no ground whatsoever and got the candy trip of candy trip. So, Vic, that's what you're talking about with Thorograph, correct?
Absolutely. 100%.
Right here, you can see it up the inside right here, just dream trip. Yeah. So it's a fair point to make, and I watch a lot of, excuse me, I watch a lot of replays. And what I was going to say about Public Sector very quickly, and I have him second. I mean, obviously, Public Sector can win. And just so you folks know also, we did not see the morning lines, or I won't speak for Vic, but I'm assuming he was like me. We did not see the morning lines before we did most of our handicapping, which makes a difference. I thought Never Surprised in the morning line would be more like 5-2, Vic, and I thought Public Sector would be more like 6-5. David Aragona, by the way, in my opinion, does a fantastic job. So when I picked Never Surprised on top, I thought I might get a better price based on the morning line. But here's my thing with Never Surprised, Vic. I can't tell you how many times, and I know there's people out there watching, that have lost races at Saratoga with lone speed on the turf. It's driving me absolutely crazy right now. But it's not just the fact that Never Surprised looks like he's going to have the lead, Vic. It's that he ran an 89 and a 90 Beyer when he was a 2-year-old in the winter. Now, the obvious concern is the long layoff. But if it's Pletcher and Saez, and Pletcher is deciding to run this horse at the end of the Saratoga meet, to me, Vic, that exudes a lot of confidence when you could have waited for a Belmont or an easier spot. Do you think there's any validity into that statement?
I couldn't agree more. To me, the biggest thing is all the weight that he gets from the horses that he has to beat.
Yeah.
And he will save ground because he's probably uncontested. Wesley Ward doesn't ask many of his riders to take horses back. So I would think you'll see Like the King sent out of there. He's shown quite a bit of speed in some of his races, obviously not in the Kentucky Derby, but
yeah.
I think Like the King can make it tough on Never Surprised. I actually did leave him off because I did see the morning line. And I agree with you about David's morning line.
That's interesting.
I think he does a very, very good job. It is the single most thankless and difficult job on the racetrack, making the morning line. Because the only time that people talk about it is when you're wrong. He's got a horse later on in the Jockey Club Gold Cup that I'm convinced will not be the price he laid him. But you know something? Whenever I think I know more than David, I find out that he knows more. And conversely, on the West Coast, when I think I know more than John White, who makes the line at Santa Anita, they're almost always right, and I'm almost always wrong. But
Andy Serling says the same thing. He gives David props. He's like, I thought this horse would be that, and David was right, spot on. Again, folks, it's what he thinks the public is going to make. It's not his personal opinion. I think that's another thing. People always get that confused, Vic, where people say, wow, how could the morning line guy think this horse is going to be 2-1? That's not what he thinks is going to happen in the race. He thinks that, or she, that's their opinion, what the public believes is going to happen.
That is exactly correct. It is not a selection. It's a prognostication of where the money will go.
Exactly.
He's definitely got the single toughest thing about making morning line is getting the favorite right. If you hit 7 out of 10, you would think, wow, I could tell you who's going to be the favorite in 10 out of 10 races. No, you can't. No, you can't.
No.
If you can hit 7.5 out of 10, you're a brilliant morning line maker. And he's got the right favorite in this race. Public Sector will be the favorite over Never Surprise. When I saw 8-5, I thought, man, I don't need an 8-5 and a 7-5 on my pick 4.
Yeah.
I picked 5. And so that's how I ended up with Founder at 4-1.
Sure. Founder is very interesting. Again, for those of you that get my race day blog, you'll see my ABC selections when I send on my blog. I'm an ABC player, Vic. I play mainly horizontal, and I use the ABC ticket maker. I think it's a great tool to use. So for those of you who are interested in seeing my ABC selections, you'll have to receive my race day blog on Saturdays. Again, you can find details on how to subscribe to the race day blog below the video player. And Mr. Stauffer, I will be sending you my race day blog, of course, absolutely free. And maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll just toss it in the garbage when you receive it. But hopefully I can help you get some picks as well in the future. So I'm happy to give that to you as well.
I am very glad that you're going to send it. I am the least toutable person on planet Earth.
Okay, terrific.
I don't care what anybody else likes.
Vic, I don't know about you. I thought these next 2 races were very difficult.
They're wonderful.
They're both allowance races. Let's talk about race 9. By the way, I didn't mention the pick 5 begins, at approximately 4:27 Eastern Standard Time. The second leg of the pick 5, they're on turf again. This is for older 3-year-olds. This is for fillies, state breds. Allowance race, non-winners of 1 other than, and we can see it's so tough that Vic has 2 horses in his top 3 that I have nowhere in my top 3. Very difficult race. You're going with a horse that I think is quite interesting too. The number 3, Looking to Fly, coming off a maiden win for Joe Sharp.
Yeah, he's very interesting to me. This is a first level allowance condition for New York breds, and so that means they can come from anywhere. And Looking to Fly, I think, was always cut out to be kind of a nice horse. And clearly he's not a sound horse. She's not a sound horse. She only ran twice as a 2-year-old, 3 times as a 3-year-old, and now she's made 2 starts as a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
However, these 2 starts have both been, what I think, very impressive. People will say, well, yeah, she broke her maiden for 40. Okay, that's fine. But running for state bred 40 with a horse that's only making her 7th start was the correct entry for Joe Sharp. No one was going to claim her out of that race. And so since Joe got her, he sprinted her on the turf, and then he routed her. When a horse runs its best race, the first time that they go long, that is something that I have made lots of money over the years, because they are telling you, hey, oh, by the way, I just did something that's really hard to do, and I made it look easy, and this is maybe what I've wanted to do my whole life. And so Looking to Fly, the first time they stretched her out, she won very impressively and ran a very, very good number. People will say, well, yeah, she beat maiden claimers, but this is an allowance race. It's only the next level up. That's what it is. So you either run in non-2 or you run in the first allowance condition, and that's what this is. She's 8-1. She keeps Saez, And by the way, Saez had some other choices in this race.
Yes, he
Stays on
did.
for Joe Sharp.
She's the 5, Vic, if you want to talk through the replay, because I found the stretch run very impressive here, even though it was against Cheaper.
It was against Cheaper, but again, there's two ways to look at that. Yes, it was against Cheaper because it was state breds, but these are state breds again too. If these horses were going to be superstars, especially older horses, then they wouldn't be still eligible for the first allowance condition. And so you see horses that are in sharp current form. You see horses that are improving, winning races like this, where you see other horses that run out a lot of money, but they don't ever, it takes them forever to get through, like a horse like English Breeze, who I don't like even a little bit in this spot.
By the way, winning in hand with great acceleration, too. Again, I think this is a very underrated effort. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, the number came back very good, too.
Okay. You're talking about Electric Youth, who I have in second, I believe. Sorry, go ahead.
To me, this race and the next one are the reason why you will either make a nice score in the pick 5 or you won't. Because we know that first turf race is probably going to be Pletcher, Brown, or Pletcher.
Yeah.
All right, Brown, Pletcher, or Brown.
Yeah.
And then, frankly, the last 2 races, there's not a lot of meat on the bones there. So if you're going to make your hay, it's going to have to be in either the 9th or the 10th.
Yeah.
And if English Breeze wins, all of my pick 5 tickets will be a day.
English Breeze. I'm sorry. I said the 2. I apologize. That's the 10 you're referring to.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If she wins, I'm going to have no tickets alive. Can she win? Yes. But she looked like she had a very nice future. Then she got a flat tire, man. She was gone for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then she strung together 4 pretty good races. But here's the thing. What does every trainer and every barn want to do? They want to win an allowance race for New York breds at Saratoga.
Yeah.
Okay, so she comes off some good races at Belmont and can't get to the races until closing week at Saratoga.
Yeah.
To me, that's a massive red flag.
With by the way, a big break in the works from May 17th to August 12th as well.
Correct. So she's already shown that she has physical limitations.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of a desperate act. Not so desperate that they ran her for a tag, which they could have done.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing is her post position. She's got a tweener style in where she's not going to be in front to get to the rail. She's not so slow that she can get to the rail. So she's going to be in the 3 or 4 path on both turns.
Yep.
If she can do that with these question marks at 5-2, then good on you. My ticket's dead, and the people that used her are alive. I'm fading English Breeze a big time in this race.
All valid points. If you want to quickly just talk about your 2 other choices, the 7 Freedom Machine for Schlossberg at 8-1 morning line. And another horse that I thought was a bit interesting here, Just Okay is Not Okay, for a pretty good combination of a Pletcher and a guy named Irad, also 8-1.
Yeah, I think Just Okay is okay, is a big player in this race. I don't really understand totally what happened last time, but she did have quite a bit of trouble.
Would you like to see the replay, Vic? Because I did watch it. If you want to see the very beginning, I think it's worth watching if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
It was, so let me bring it up here. That the source is the 6. Whoops, excuse me. Watch. I'll just let you go and watch it, Vic. This is the 6 horse. You'll see approaching the first turn. Had some trouble here in between. And this was a fast early pace, by the way, too. You'll see it coming up here. Again, between takes back, was rank. You can see right there, really studied pretty hard. I will say got a decent trip after that. That was the trouble. Went a little bit wide for some reason as well into a hot pace.
There's a couple of things that never work. Pros that putt for par and grass horses that are ranked. It doesn't work. No matter
you think
what.
She can rebound, obviously, because you.
I do, and if you go back to any one of the 3 races before that one, she not only took up, but she looked to me like she might have clipped heels just very briefly.
Could have.
Which sometimes can cause a jock to get their balls up in their throat and go, well, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So any young horse can throw in a clinker. I know that when she was too headstrong, that probably completely frosted the diodes of Todd Pletcher, because his horses are like Steve Asmussen horses in that they know how to do what you have to do to win a race, which
Sure.
is sit, control, wait, go.
Yeah.
She didn't do any of that.
No.
I have never been a believer in saying throw out the last race. Why? They ran it. But that being
course.
said, I know that she's got races in her that can win, and so I'm willing to overlook that race. And
Yeah.
she's a major player in here. She'll be on every ticket.
And then just very, very briefly, Freedom Machine, just a consistent closer who's been running well recently. Not a big fan of the 1 for 14 though, Vic.
No, I'm not either, and it's why I've got her in third. But I want to make a point about Freedom Machine, because take a look at the first races of her season this year. They were for maiden 40.
Yeah.
She got the money for maiden 40, and they kicked her up to the first allowance condition. She was
Sure.
49-1
Yeah.
and got beat a length and 3/4. What are we looking at? We're looking at Looking to Fly. She's the same horse. Now, Looking to Fly is not going to be 49-1, but for those of us that say you can't do that to win for maiden 40 and then be competitive against allowance horses,
Yeah.
well, Freedom Machine belied that.
Yeah.
She got beat a length and 3/4 at 40-1, and Looking to Fly is actually a little bit better on numbers. So
Okay. I will
both of them
say,
are
just for
interesting.
our viewers, I will say that's a race that I actually talked about on my show on the August 13th date. I actually previewed that show with Matt Bernier on the Matt Bernier show, and we talked about a lot of horses coming out of the July 24th race. That race did completely fall apart, by the way, and there were bombs that finished 1, 2, 3. So just for the viewers, I'd be a little bit careful with that 67 buyer, because it was a very fast early pace and the race fell apart. However,
Why do you say it fell apart just because long shots ran 1, 2, 3?
well, no, if
It
you,
means that the public was wrong.
well, I'll show you that race. I'm sorry, that's not what I wanted to show you. Actually, we're not. Was this? Yeah, this is the race. Sorry, yeah. So the horses that were in at the quarter that were 8th, 10th, and 6th came 1, 2, 3. So it.
So what's the first thing you do? You look down and see if the fractions were fast. I don't really know if they were or not. I just have a hard time with saying races fell apart
Sure, I understand.
because I like 25-1 shots every day, and if they win, I
Sure.
think that they held together perfectly.
No, I'm not discounting your pick. I just want to make a point
No,
that
no, I'm not. I'm not saying you are. I've never
sure.
been comfortable with that race fell
Okay,
apart.
fair enough. If I'm going to go ahead and explain my pick, because folks, this is the great thing. This is what I love about handicapping puzzles, Vic. Either I'm going to be completely wrong or you're going to be completely wrong, and that's the
Isn't
great
that
thing
cool?
about it, right?
Oh, that's why we
I know
do
your
this.
personality, and I know my personality. We take stands, right? You got to take stands in this game. So here's my feeling, Vic, for the viewers out there and for yourself, and then we'll move on. Unlike a lot of races at Saratoga on the turf, there sure looks to be a lot of speed to me. I know it's not going to develop. That could very well happen. There's 5 speed horses in this race, and they're going to walk 50 and a half. It could very well happen. The 4 Taught Me Not has to go. Golden Oldie, her fastest races seem to be up close. Just Okay is not okay. Could come from behind, but seems to be a horse that wants to be up close. Uh, Infringement, a horse that I don't think can win, but seems to be a horse that prefers it up close. Beyond Brown has to go, and Broberg and Ken Sell, that's a very aggressive combination. So here's my thinking on English Breeze. All your points are well taken, Vic. I think this horse will be able to tuck in. It's just a guess, but I think she will be able to tuck in. And the other thing I do like about this horse, although she's coming off a long break, that last race, Runaway Rumor and Spongy would be 1 to 10 in this spot. That was a very difficult race compared to the other horses. And even though she did have a break with the works, Vic, 2 nice breezes, one in 48 and 1, and the other in 48 and 2, second out of 55. So this is more of a in David Donk I trust, but I would never, ever bet this horse to win at anything less than, let's say, 4 to 1. But in a horizontal pick 5, I'm going to use her as an A. And the other A I'm going to mention, then we'll move on, is Electric Youth, who has blinkers off for Kimmel and Johnny V. Also has some good numbers, a 70 and a 61. Raced well against a lot of these horses. I like the blinkers off. I like the works, and I like the rail because she's going to save ground. So that's how I feel. But Vic, if the 3, 6, and 7 win, it wouldn't surprise me. Completely wide open race. Uh, let's go on to race 10. Race 10 is another very difficult allowance race. And Vic, I'm assuming that you're going to agree with me as I switch our picks here. And by the way, Vic doesn't know my picks and vice versa. Again, look at our picks, folks. A lot of ways to go. His top choice and third choice, I have nowhere in the money. So this is a very difficult race. And what I was going to say, Vic, that I think you'd agree with is there's only a few places in the country that have this fantastic N1X, races, huge fields. They're going 6.5 with horses that have big upside, and those tracks would probably be Saratoga, Gulfstream certain days, Keeneland, and then of course Oaklawn. With all due respect to the racing out in California, they just don't have great field sizes. But this is one of these races, Vic, that I love to look at, full of potential. And you've got the 12, another interesting horse for Steve Asmussen, staying out late.
When I saw Staying Out Late break his main at Churchill Downs in September of his 2-year-old year, I thought he could win the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
And I think Steve did too. They sent him a route of ground, and he got beat at even money. And I think that probably scared them a little bit.
Okay.
So he wasn't necessarily in the A group anymore. They sent him to the fairgrounds, and he ran awful. And then he ran 2 starts at Oaklawn. And then he's gone away again. Mm-hmm. This is an extremely talented horse. He better be.
Yeah.
Because he is in against absolute rocket ships in this spot.
Field. Wow.
What carried the day is the 12-1, knowing that betting on horses is kind of like buying stock. You don't want to invest after everybody else knows what you think you know.
Yep.
And I think this is a very good horse.
Okay.
There's not a bigger fan of both Steve Asmussen and Ricardo Santana Jr. than me. And a lot of that is because I see them at their absolute apex when they dominate the standings every year at Oaklawn.
Sure.
I think Santana is a true difference maker, and I think Steve Asmussen is one of the great horse trainers to ever live. So he became the right play on top because of all of that and because of being 12-1.
Can I interrupt you just for a second, Vic, if you don't mind? Are you concerned
Absolutely.
This horse might be too far back?
Sure.
That was really my main concern.
Yeah, I mean, I have lots of concerns about it.
Sure.
But I can get over that by the fact that I can be wrong 11 times.
And I actually think he's going to be more than 12-1 in this field. I see 15, 16-1. I'm just guessing, of course, but
cool. Now I can be wrong 15 times and make money.
Do you think he could drift up, or do you think there's going to be some smart money? He'll be 6-7-1 at post. What would be your guess?
No. There's too many places for the money to go for this horse to be 6-1. No shot.
I agree.
I just think this game is not about picking the winner. It's about making the right bet.
Absolutely.
And I think he's possibly the right bet. If I'm right about him being really a good horse, then we're never going to see him at this price ever again. So to me, he's the right gamble. Do I think that he can outrun Ducali? Probably not. He's probably not going to outrun that horse. That horse has already won at the track. He's already won at the distance. He ran a massively fast race. Brad Cox horses don't bounce. 5-2, maybe, because it's a 12-horse field. Again, out of respect to Dave, he looks to me more like a 7-5 shot, but it's tough if you have to bet a lot of money on a horse at 7-5 in a 12-horse field to make him 7-5.
Yeah.
Unlike English Breeze, I won't buy a ticket that doesn't have Ducali on it.
Sure.
But I'll certainly hope that the other 3 horses that I picked here outrun him, and they may not. I mean, he's my twirling candy, man. I wish I could tell you twirling candy workout story. Maybe next time. I got a
Okay.
great twirling candy workout
Okay.
story for you.
Let's save it next time. I'll tell you, Vic. Obviously, I'd love to have you back. So next time we have you
Yeah.
on, I'm making some notes here. I'll ask you
Yeah.
about the twirling candy story.
Baby Yoda just ran really fast. He did it against starter horses. He did it in a 7-horse field. He's gonna get culture shock. I was very impressed with Tuggle when he ran at Oaklawn. He ran 2 very good races. The second one, the first time when he got run down by a horse called Lycan, cost me $40,000 in the pick 5.
Oh my goodness!
And there
by
was
the
no
way,
way.
I don't have to tell you, but these allowance races, especially in the last 2 or 3 years at Oaklawn, have been loaded. I mean, Town Champ. Look at Echo Town. Those are serious.
Yeah, go back Matoli. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So when I saw Tuggle, I just got a sick feeling. And then if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it, the fastest horse in this race, and it's not even close, is Hometown. If you go back to the race that he ran off the layoff on the 14th of March, where he earned a 90 buyer, he ran a 0 on Thoroughgraph, and Ducali hasn't gotten close to that.
This is your second choice. Sorry, to Hometown.
Yeah, that was a massive race. Sometimes you'll see horses that never can get back to those numbers, and maybe he won't. But if you just want to take the horse that's run faster than anybody else in the race, it's Hometown by a country mile.
By the way, lost to a very nice horse, First Captain, who was favored in the Jim Dandy, but disappointed. But is a very talented horse, First Captain.
Yeah. So.
And you've got the. I'm sorry. You have the one as you before mentioned, Tuggle in third.
Yeah. So I'll probably have those 3, and then like I said, English Breeze can beat me. Ducali's not going to beat me.
Okay. I have Ducali on top. I will admit it's not the most creative choice, but he ran so well. You made excellent points. Brad Cox will have this horse ready again. He did get a very good trip, I will say that. But to me, I think he's in line for another good trip. My second choice in here, Vic, is a horse I am very interested in. It's the number 6, Olympiad, for Bill Mott. Now, Bill Mott's got 2 in here. He's got Baby Yoda, the 8, as you mentioned, and he's got Olympiad. Here's a stat I'd like to throw out to everyone, and I didn't have a chance to make a banner for it, but Bill Mott, off this long layoff, are we ready now? 17%, not bad. 41% in the money, but here's the thing I really like. 30% with Junior Alvarado riding for Mott in this spot, Vic. So when he has a horse coming off a layoff, I mean, obviously Alvarado rides for him anyway, but specifically in this situation, Alvarado is very good. This horse raced against first time, a very good reinvestment risk. And look who he beat last year at Saratoga. Cattle River and Greatest Honor, 2 very nice horses. Now, I know it was last year. I know it's a very long layoff, but here's my feeling, Vic. This horse reminds me a little bit of the 4 in the first leg. Why would Mott bring this horse back basically in the last weekend of Saratoga when he could ride him back in an easier spot? So maybe I'm looking too much into it, but the horse is working very well. He's got a lot of talent. He cost $700,000. He's gonna be a price. So your 12 horse selection is sort of like my 6 here, a horse that has big upside, and I'll get a price. And I've got Hometown as my third choice. Any thoughts on Olympiad coming off a long layoff before we move on?
I think it's a brilliant pick.
Thank you.
He's also first Lasix.
He is.
They paid $700. This could be a graded stakes winner.
I mean, he can run mid-90s.
Howard, you and I don't know you and I don't know each other.
No,
and hopefully we will become friends.
I hope so.
But I gotta ask you a question that is truly one of the great pet peeves of my life when it comes to handicapping races.
Sure.
Because you just made a wonderful, well thought through, salient point about this race, and you did 2 things. One, you convinced me that it's a wild, crazy, wonderful Saratoga juicy grab bag, which I agree. And then you just made a 2-minute story on a horse that'll pay $18
And I picked Tukali on top, right?
And
That's what
then
you're
you
saying?
picked a 7-5 shot. What the hell is going on?
Well, hold on. I do want to. Fair point. You have absolutely every right to give me shit about that. I get it. But I will say, and you don't know this, and people won't know this unless they get my blog, I have 3 A's in this race, and they're 3, 6, 10. Just to let everyone know.
Okay.
In my horizontal pick 5. So, again,
When
I would
I'm
never bet
watching
the 3 on
TV
top.
and a guy says this is the most wide open race, anything can happen. I'll take the 4. He's 6-5. I want to take the cat and throw him right into the television. But I don't have a cat.
Guilty as charged, Vic. Guilty as charged. Anyway, it's a great allowance race. You can go very deep in this race. Vic has some great ideas, especially with the 12. I think the 6 is interesting. Do what you will with this allowance race.
The
Vic,
12 and the Olympiad horse, they're the same horse. I think they're the exact same horse.
Yeah.
For the same reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll both
Totally
be on
agree.
my ticket.
Okay. And I'm going to be putting, and I already have the 12 on my ticket, but I'm going to upgrade based on everything you said. So that's a great thing about talking to each other, and maybe you get some ideas, and maybe you don't like some ideas. The last 2 races of this sequence, and again, I really appreciate everyone sticking around. Vic, we have more people on right now than we did when we started the show. So there's a lot of people watching. I really appreciate everyone watching the show tonight.
They probably thought Law and Order should have started 20 minutes ago.
Nah, that's all right. This is more important.
No, I think they too did.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You should have been warned off by me. Every time I do one of these, it's the longest show that the person has ever done.
Vic, as long as you listen, I'm enjoying this very much. You're more than welcome to stay on as much as you want. We have 2 grade 1s left, Vic. They're both winning their in. So the winners of these races are both going to get automatic bids to the Breeders' Cup with expenses paid and whatnot. Let's talk about the first one. It's on the inner turf, mild 3/8, older fillies and mares. It's a great race every year. Used to be at Belmont, moved it to this weekend at Saratoga. It's the Flower Bowl Stakes, better known as the Chad Brown Stakes recently. Will it be that way on Saturday? Vic believes that a horse coming in from Europe for an excellent trainer, Jean-Claude Roguet, ridden by IRAD, an interesting new face, American Bridge, 12-1 morning line.
At this time of year, when you're either doing Breeders' Cup, major grade 1 Breeders' Cup preps, or when you are doing the Breeders' Cup, Euros dominate these grass races. They just do. And I stopped. It's like the old thing where a guy's hitting his head against the wall and it's now bloody and swollen. And the guy says to him, "Why do you do that?" He says, "Because it feels so good when I stop." I've stopped trying to beat these horses because if you continue to bet on them, you will end up making money. Even Japan, who could have won, boy, did Rosario undress Ryan Moore in that race.
Oh, by the way, I have a friend who sent me a 3-paragraph email completely pissed at Ryan Moore for that ride, and also giving credit to Joel Rosario.
Yeah, it was more credit to Rosario than against Moore.
Kept him hemmed in. Fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
American Bridge's numbers are not quite up to the standards of a La Signare or a My Sister Nat, and they are a country mile away from more like Garthus. Okay. But this is just another example of a horse that I think these kind of horses, like the Velasquez horse that won the grade 1 at 23-1, the last big grade 1 day, which by the way,
that was the O'Brien, the younger O'Brien.
The younger O'Brien.
I can't remember the name. The 9 horse. Anyway, go ahead.
I picked and bet on him because I figured, okay, there's 4 Euros. I think a Euro will win this race. He's the longest of the 4 Euros, so I took him.
Yeah.
These kind of races are more and more, even in this day and age, being won by horses from Europe. And she really doesn't have that big of a resume, but then neither does our 4-5 favorite, who's never won a grade 1. So she's 12-1. She does get IRAD, which is a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
She just seemed like the right horse to use on top. So I picked American Bridge on top.
Okay.
My Sister Nat is sitting on go for the best race of her career. Yes, I see that she lost to Warlike Goddess last time out. I see that. And there's, Warlike Goddess is carrying 122, my sister Nat 118. So that's a pretty big shift from their last race. And my sister Nat is an extremely consistent horse. Warlike Goddess, if she repeats the race that she ran in the Glens Falls, they are all running for second because she ran completely off the charts huge.
Yep.
Maybe too fast.
By the way, the turf, sorry to interrupt, just so everyone knows, they got a lot of rain, of course, yesterday. Much more rain in New York City. And by the way, I hope everyone is okay there because
yes, I want to send that out too.
And I'm sure you have friends there, Vic. I mean, some of that.
I don't have any friends.
Okay, well, anyway, you probably know of some. You probably know of some people, but anyway, seriously, that was some scary video. I hope everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Saratoga did get some rain, not nearly as much. They were off the turf today. It's supposed to be very nice the next few days, but my point is, it is not going to be firm Saturday. It's probably going to be closer to good. Vic, go ahead.
And if it rains starting now until Saturday, they'll still run this race on the turf because it's a win and you're in, and it's a grade 1.
Yeah, but Warlike Goddess was awesome last time.
Yeah.
But she's been awesome her last several times.
This race is this. It took me about 6 seconds to handicap this race because the fastest horse is Warlike Goddess. It's not close. The horse most likely to run a new top and move forward with a huge effort is my sister Nat. And American Bridge is a Euro, and she's not being left off tickets because she's a Euro. And since she was 12-1, and the other one was 5-1, and the other one was 4-5, I took them in inverse order, 2, 4, 3.
Vic, will you still possibly be my future friend and be on the show if I were to say I don't like the 2 at all?
Well, of course.
All right, let me talk about American Bridge, folks. Listen, she's a Euro, she can win. Okay, not all Euros are.
You just said you didn't like her. How can she win?
I don't think
you're supposed to say she can't win.
All right, Vic, this horse is a ridiculous pick on your choice. How's that?
There you go. Now you're talking.
This is ridiculous. What are you thinking, Vic Stauffer?
I don't know. I'll let you know at 6:11 Eastern time on Saturday.
Here's how I feel, guys. First of all, forget the 12-1, Vic. This is Peter Brandt and Irate Ortiz. This horse is going to be 4-1, 5-1. Number one. Number two, what has this horse done, to make me believe that she can win this race? Okay, she's gone the distance, fine. She's racing. These are very lower class races at smaller tracks in France and Italy. I know she won a grade 3 last time. Maybe she's getting better, fine. A grade 3 at San Siro is not very impressive to me. She's improving, but she's going to be way over bet, and she's not run against very good competition at all. I do not like American Bridge. She's going to have to prove it to me. She would be an extreme backup for me if I would use this horse at all. I
just got paid back for the English Breeze.
Okay. There you go. Warlike Goddess, I know. There's nothing creative to say. She's probably gonna win this race if she gets a decent trip. I think she could be a player in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, even though there be some very good Euros. I think she's that good. Her turn of foot, Vic, is just serious, obviously. She can run. I don't see why the one La Signari can't win this race for Brendan Walsh. The figs are there. She hasn't gone this distance, but Walsh has been quoted as saying that the horse can absolutely handle going longer. To me, she seems like the other alternative. And Vic, what I like most about the one here from Madacat Stables is, again, there's zero early pace signed on. I think Santana is very underrated on the turf. I've been talking about this for years, Vic. He doesn't get enough credit. He can win on the turf. I think Santana is sending, and I can easily see this horse wire the field. So to me, it's pretty much 1-3. My sister Nat has had her chances. It's Chad Brown. I don't think she's anything special. I'm using her as an extreme backup. I'm mainly going 1-3. There you go, folks. That's all you need.
What's your favorite steakhouse?
My favorite steakhouse. Wow. Yeah. In Lexington or just anywhere or whatever?
Anywhere.
Wow. I'll tell you what. I'll let How about Gordon's?
Okay, there you go. I like Morton's. Let's go steak and wine and anything else. The whole shooting match.
Okay.
Horse for horse. I'll take my sister Nat and you take La Signari.
You got it. Done.
Beautiful.
We just recorded it, folks. It's on live YouTube. Just heads up between those two. You got it. All right. Ricardo Santana, when you hear this, go to the lead and don't look back. There you
Yeah,
go.
don't worry about that grade 1 and the Breeders' Cup. Just make sure you beat Vic Source.
That's it. That's all we need.
Perfect.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I love this conversation. Let's get to the last race, folks. This is the race of the day. Let me go ahead and switch my picks here on the screen. What a surprise. We're going different directions on top. Should be no surprise to anyone. I'm sure Vic will be right. The grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's usually run at Belmont also. Now it's run here at Saratoga. They're going 3-year-olds and up. It's 1.25 miles on the dirt. $1 million. It's a small field, Vic, but it's an excellent field with probably, I think you'd agree, 3 main players. And you're going with Max Player for Asmussen and Santana, who won the Suburban last time.
I would agree it's 3 main players, but Forza d'Oro is not one of them.
Okay.
For me, the 3 main players are Max Player, Happy Saver, and Night Ops. This is where I really defer to the expertise and the genius of David Aragona, because I cannot imagine how this horse coming out of a 3 other than can beat 2 graded stakes winners. Or be favored over 2 graded stakes winners. I just think that Max Player and Happy Saver, who ran 1-3 in the Suburban, that's a pretty serious race, are not going to go favored over a horse that just beat 3 times. Yes, he's drawn inside. People talk about class, and I've always believed that class is defined by how fast you can run. And Forza d'Oro is a very nice horse, and he just ran a very fast race. If he repeats the race that he just ran, he will get absolutely, completely, and thoroughly drowned in this race. He not only has to go through it, he's got to go way through it. He's trying 1.25 miles for the first time. He is racing without Lasix for the first time. He's carrying 126. They all are. I think he is a horrible 8-5 shot. Absolutely horrible. He just doesn't have the resume that these other horses have.
Sure.
Predominantly Max Player and Happy Saver. Max Player just ran much faster than Forza d'Oro, as did Happy Saver. And they've both definitely been through the wars way more than a horse like Forza d'Oro. I just think that for all of those reasons, they're more likely. Night Ops is a horse that I think I've called half of his 24 races. I know him very, very well.
Yeah.
He doesn't strike me. I just, sometimes when I handicap these races, I certainly do it with the double. I make believe I'm the announcer about to have the horses come into the winner's circle. And I say to myself, now entering the winner's circle, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, just a quinky dink. Nope, that doesn't sound right.
Right.
I don't think John Embrial is going to say, going into the winner's circle, the winner of the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup, Night Ops. It just doesn't seem to fit.
He's just not a grade 1 animal. No disrespect.
He's probably not a grade 1 animal, but he's way faster than Forza d'Oro is. He just is.
By your numbers, that's interesting, because by the buyers, he's not. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, when in doubt, look at Max Player. He ran second. He ran third in the Belmont and third in the Travers, for Christ's sake. And now we're going to say that he's going to be 5-2 and Forza d'Oro is going to be 8-5.
No, that's not going to happen.
That's just crazy. And
And
now at the end of the day, if I really am torn between 2 horses, I'll almost always take the higher price horse. But then when I get Santana and Asmussen and a horse that's closer to the rail, that solidifies it. So I'm on Max Player. I might even single him, so I can get a lot of because even if he goes favored, it's amazing how the morning line affects the
absolutely.
What horses get used in the pick 5.
Absolutely.
So I'll probably single him.
Sure.
If not, I'll just use him and Happy Saver.
Okay.
Forza d'Oro, to me, personifies everything about horses that I like to bet against.
Wow. Wait till you see my caveman pick 5 ticket. That'll be you're gonna get a good laugh out of that one. Vic, here's my feeling. I like Max Player, and you made valid points, but the Max Player love from not really you necessarily, but other people, I don't get. This horse won last time by neck at 12-1. That was the first race that he had won since the Withers in February 20. He hadn't won in a year and a half. And frankly, and I've watched this horse a lot, I haven't been that impressed with him. I know he's faced monsters. I know he's been in tough spots. He really hasn't done a lot of running until that last race when he did run very well. However, Vic, in the slop. And so I'm always a little bit cautious when you have horses that run big numbers in the slop. Forza Dioro. Uh, Here's why I like Forza Duro. We've talked all night tonight accurately about you have to try to predict what's going to happen going forward. I think this horse is going to take a big step forward. I know what you're going to say, Howard. He has to. No, you're exactly right. He does, but I like the way that he's working. I like the rail. He's going to get a good trip. He doesn't need the lead. I don't think distance is going to be an issue. And I will say visually, because I watched the replay last time, I thought he was really good last time. I mean, he could have won by a lot more, in my opinion. So all your points are well taken. I like Forza Dioro on top in this race. I like Happy Saver second for the reasons we've mentioned. He's very consistent. He does have to improve, though, also. But I think he will. A little bit wide last time. Got a little bit of a strange trip. And I've got Max Player in third. Any of those three could probably win this race. We're going to end the show with my Caveman Pick 5. This is what I always do, Vic. I put my Caveman Pick 5 ticket up. Now, I know you're going to disagree, which is absolutely fine, of course, because we disagreed on a lot of our picks tonight. But let me just ask you, there you can laugh now, Vic, with my Forza Dior on the end there. But let me ask you a general question about horizontal betting. Um, do you believe that on a cheaper ticket, do you think you have to single? And if you were to single, do you believe in singling who you think is the most likely winner, or perhaps that horse somewhere in the 3, 4, 5-1 range that will separate yourself from other tickets?
Whether you're betting win, show, a Quinella, or the super high five, this is pari-mutuel wagering. What you want to try to do is zig when the public zags.
Absolutely.
So
I've said that on my show. Viewers, did you hear that? Vic Stauffer just said the same thing I've said. Go ahead.
So as far as singling goes, I will oftentimes single a horse that I think is no more than second or third or fourth likely to win. But I know that if I can be right about that horse, it opens up all kinds of other possibilities for me in other spots. Most of my horizontal bets are based on who I can throw out rather than include. That's why if English Breeze or Forza Doro wins tomorrow, I will have them on no tickets. But whether it's a single or a show bet or whatever, we must remember that this game is pari-mutuel, and you're trying to exploit the mistakes made by your fellow players in whatever form that takes. So there's no real structure to it because each particular sequence that you go to becomes individual unto itself.
Sure. Let me explain to the viewers why I'm singling on the end. And Vic, I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not. There's 3 horses that are going to be somewhere around 2-1, right? Let's just somewhere in that ballpark, 9 to whatever. There's 3 horses that most likely can win. In my opinion, using 2 horses in what I would call a 3-horse field makes absolutely no sense from a value perspective to double your ticket in that situation. So, folks, whether I'm right or wrong, I would single if you're playing a caveman ticket with a small budget, I would single on the end for the simple fact that, in my opinion, Vic, it's a 3-horse race, and going too deep in a 3-horse race does not make any sense. Would you agree with that statement?
Only except for the part about it being on the end. The last race in a pick 5 sequence is no different than any of the other races in a pick 5 sequence.
Well, if the race was, no matter where the race was, I don't want to emphasize. I'm not saying because it was on the end. If this race was the second leg, I would do the same thing. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, but the way I would look at it is what kind of a reasonable chance do I have of getting some bombs in early?
Okay.
Because I'd sure hate to go 4 consecutive $20 horses, and then I'd be saying, man, if I'd have just put up $70 more, I'd be cooking with gas.
Sure.
I also just look at it of how much the idea is they're not going to give you anything unless you have the 5 numbers there.
Yep.
You have to have the 5 winning numbers.
Yep.
So what you want to try to do is get those 5 winning numbers by putting up the least amount with the best possible return. However that shakes out, in whatever form it shakes out, then that's what you should do. If you're singling a horse, you should be singling that horse because you think that 17 things can go wrong and you'll still win. Or because you're saying, I know that this horse is as good or better than the other horses I fear, and so what the hell? I got to be right somewhere.
Sure.
It sounds like you feel like Forza d'Oro stands out like that. That being said, then I can't really fault you for that. But at the end of the day, I think that you have to make sure that you think you have all 5 winners on there, especially if you're pitching favorites. And you're not in this sequence, and I am. So it's a tough call. It's a tough call.
I think I just want to emphasize again. I think the viewers know this, and Vic, I know we just met tonight, but I'm an ABC player. This is not the ticket I'm personally playing at all. I'm playing an ABC ticket with.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm an ABC player. I play ABC tickets. I have. I'll just let everyone know. I have. Sorry, looking. I have Forza d'Oro and Happy Saver as my A's, and I have Max Player as my B. That's all I'm doing in that race. In terms of ABC.
Okay, I've never. I don't know what any of that means.
Okay.
I know that.
Interesting. Are you not?
I know that Steve
player?
Christ made millions doing that with. And I know Ed DeRosa is a big ABC player too, and I respect Ed. I think he's a brilliant handicapper. I don't know anything for any of that. I don't know my A, my B. I don't know anything about that. I just put together a ticket.
You just play straight what I call caveman ticket is what you like to play with your horizontal bets.
Yeah.
But you'll toss some favorites for value purposes. That makes a lot of sense, obviously. So we do similar things. We just use different methods.
Back in the day, the Professor Gordon Jones used to call it single and double miss rather than ABC. And I get that. I get that too.
So, Vic, I'm going to wrap up the show here in just a minute. And by the way, if you could stay linked on after I put you in the background, I'd love to talk to you for 30 more seconds if I could. But I have one last question, and I don't want to end on a bit of a downer, but I live 20 minutes from Arlington Park, Vic, and I need some advice. I need some therapy. I need some advice because I'm going there on closing day in a few weeks. Unfortunately, you have experience with Hollywood closing. I don't want to get into the politics at all. That's a whole separate conversation. Give me some advice, some therapy on what you do when your hometown track closes, because I have a feeling that's going to be a tough day for a lot of people.
Well, it's like you're losing a member of the family. And my mother died in 1979. That is 42 years ago. I haven't gone a day since then that I haven't thought about her. You can't make chicken soup out of chicken shit. And you're going to feel like shit every day forever. If you're trying to avoid that, don't, because you want to rejoice in the fact that feeling is so real and it means so much to you. You can embrace bad feelings as much as you can good ones, and draw from the joy that they brought you. But it's like I said in the analogy, and it's an analogy maybe I should make comparing my mom to a racetrack. But what I'm trying to say is, people will say, over the years it's going to get easier. That's complete horseshit. It's not. When I think about Hollywood Park going out of business, I still can't fucking believe it happened. How did Hollywood Park go out of business? All I ever wanted to do was call the races at Hollywood Park. That's it. And I was there 13 years, and Yankee Stadium, a horse racing, closed. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And so I would just, I would not try to talk yourself out of feeling awful. I would go ahead and embrace that. Try to think about the things that you've loved about Arlington and know that this life ain't fair, brother.
I'm assuming you've been to Arlington because you called race at Hawthorne. So is that
Oh,
correct?
sure. Lots and
Yeah.
lots and lots of times.
It's a beautiful track. Well, listen, I appreciate the advice. I'm going to have a lot of warm, fun memories when I go there in a few weeks. I was there for the million. Vic Stauffer, I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to consider you a horse racing friend already, even though we've only talked for 2 hours. I cannot, again, thank you enough for coming on the show. Our viewers appreciate it. Last question for you, Vic. Where can people find you on Twitter or social media if they want to get in touch with you?
At Goof on Roof.
You can see it on the screen there on the left side, folks. I'm
Yeah.
pointing to it right now. There. Yeah.
I believe in truth in advertising, and I work on the roof, and the rest is pretty self-explanatory. So, yeah, I am just a broken down horse player that loves to talk about trying to pick winners and get excited about young horses that could potentially be great. And if anybody has any questions, because as you said, I've worn a lot of hats, including being a steward. I've become sort of the voice of reason on Twitter with regard to what people say are questionable stewards' decisions.
Oh boy.
And I try to talk them through it and explain why the stewards are doing what they're doing. And
Okay,
some
terrific.
people have said that they appreciate that. I was a California steward for 5 years, and still am a licensed steward in a couple of states. So
Okay.
I try to help with that. You get a lot of abuse for that, but my gosh, not as much as you get for race calling. So it makes it easier.
Well, trying to go through all the different categories. There's just a lot of lack of knowledge out there, basically. So I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing a good job in service. I try to explain
When I
to people.
explain things to people, they understand that stewards are looking at it from a different spectrum than they are, and stewards are dispassionate. That's the first thing that makes them different. So the biggest thing is, if it's a bang bang play at second base, every Boston Red Sox fan is going to hate your guts, and every Yankees fan is going to love you if you call the Yankees safe, and
Right.
vice versa if you call it the other way. So
Yeah.
if you're a steward and you make a decision, you know full well that half of the people are going to think that you're full of crap, and it just comes with the job. But I like, people have told me that they appreciate when I explain to them how the process works, and and if I can do anything to make it more understandable, then I really feel like I've accomplished something.
Terrific. We appreciate it, Vic. I know Oaklawn's starting in December, correct? This year, which is very
December
exciting.
3rd, yeah, 66 days of racing. December 3rd, we're going to run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through the day after the Derby.
Terrific. So you can check Vic out, and of course Oaklawn, one of my favorite tracks to bet, and I hope to be there in the spring. Vic Stauffer, thanks again for joining the show. Hope you're a fan of the show. Spread the word to not friends, because you don't have friends, but other people you might know. And looks like I'll be or you'll be buying some steak and some food here next time we meet. So thanks again, Vic. Appreciate it. Look forward to having you again on the show, and have a great night. Say hello to your wife for me as well.
I will. All the best, Howard.
Thank you, Vic. And stay on just for a second, so I'll talk to you. Take care. All right, take care. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure. I love that guy. Vic Stauffer is as genuine as you're going to get. He's knowledgeable. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I did very much. Next week, talk about enjoyable guests. Matt Bernier. Matt Bernier coming back for his second appearance next Thursday. We're going to go, by the way, half an hour earlier. I will give all the information throughout the next week, but we're going to go 7:30 Eastern. 7:30 Eastern, a week from today with Matt Bernier. Details on Twitter and other places. But again, thanks to Vic Stauffer. Thanks for all of you for watching the show. This has been episode 81 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck with your bets on closing weekend this Saturday at Saratoga. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.